Back to Library Church YouTube channel. Today's class we'll be learning how to make this beautiful flounce that we see on this dress. It's also called the batwing sleeve. It's a very beautiful tutorial and it's very simple to make. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so the major tutorial is going to be on the flounce, but I just want to quickly take us through the basic bodies that I'm going to be putting this on. So this is just my basic bodice pattern. I've cut out the neckline for the back. So for the front it's going to be 3 inches, but the depth is 3 inches. But I'm going to make my depth, okay, the natural depth is 3 inches by 3 inches, but I want to make mine around 8 inches. Okay, remember I already cut out one from the back, so 8 inches is going to be around here. So if I'm connecting my 3 inches depth, so I'm just going to connect it to the 3 inches here, and then from there I'm going to make like a V shape. Okay, so you can actually go with whatever it is that you want. I don't want to have too much marking on this because it's a white fabric, so I'm just cutting it like this, and then I'm going to connect. So now after cutting it, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, you can see the neckline that I have. You can choose whatever neckline you want to work with. So now you're going to cut facing for this so that you can turn it out. This is what the back look like. I'm just going to slash the back open so that I can expose the zipper allowance, so that I will have 2 separate back bodies. So I'll just take it to the sewing machine now, hold my dart, then after holding the dart I'm going to sew it on the shoulder as well as the side, then we'll move straight to the flounce. So I'm going ahead to sew it. As we have seen, this is the front and this is the back. So what you need to do first now is to turn your neckline as well as your armhole, because this is not going to have a sleeve. The flounce is going to serve as the sleeve. So you turn your neckline and your armhole before you place your flounce on it. It's going to be easier. You can also do that after placing the flounce, but this is just going to make your work easier. And you can also do this on a bustier pattern, okay, but because I just want the main tutorial to be on the flounce, that's why I'm just using a regular waist dart for this. So to create my flounce, I'm going to put this on fold. Okay, I'm going to put it on fold. I'm putting the front on fold, and then I'll mark the space that the flounce is going to follow. So that's where I'm going to be able to take the measurement that I need for my flounce. Okay, so here, this is the lower part. I'm going to measure 2 inches because I want it to be 4 inches apart from each other. So measuring 2 inches on half scale is going to give me 4 inches. So I'm just going to mark it a little because this is a white fabric, and then from there I'm going to measure the length that I want before I start to spread it out. So for me, and that's going to double as the length of my flounce, so I just want it to be around 6 to 7 inches upwards before I connect it. So here now I have 6 inches. I'm going to take the 2 inches measurement again, and then I'm going to make that into a straight line. So from there I'll keep taking my 2 inches measurement, and then I'll connect it like this. So you can see that the neckline now is now bent. So I'll keep taking the 2 inches measurement. Here on my neckline I'll rearrange it, and then take my 2 inches measurement on my shoulder as well. So you don't have to use 2 inches, you can start to use whatever measurement that suits you, but I'm using 2 inches for mine, and then I'm going to connect all of them together. Okay, so this is what I have after connecting them. So the same thing I did on this side, I'm going to turn to the other side as well and repeat the same thing so that I'll have something uniform. So likewise on the back, I'll go to the back as well and then do the same thing on the back. So after making all this marking now, I can now take my measurement for the flounce. So to take the measurement of my flounce now, I'm going to mark 6 inches upwards. Okay, I'm not going to include that in the measurement because that's going to serve as my length. So now I'll mark 6 inches upwards on both front and back. So now the flounce measurement is going to be taken from this 6 inches mark all the way to my shoulder, and then I'm going to take this back to the front. So now I have about 22.5 inches, so that's going to be the radius that I'm going to be using to cut out my flounce. So this 22.5 inches now, I'm going to divide it by 6.28 to cut my flounce. So the radius I'm working with is 3.5 and the length is 7 inches plus seam allowance. So now I'm going to cut this out. So you cut out 2 for each of your flounce, okay, one for lining and one for main fabric. And then I'll cut out my interfacing. I'm using gum stay, and then I'll go ahead and fuse it to it. So you open up one side of this flare, okay. You can see me opening up one side of my flare for both the lining and the main fabric because I cut it together. So this is what it's going to look like. I'll go ahead and fuse my interfacing to it now. I have fused my interfacing to it now, so I just laid the lining and the main fabric against each other, and then I'll go ahead to sew it on the hem so that it's going to be neatly finished on the hemline. So I've gone ahead to turn it out, as you can see. Then I pressed it neatly, so you can see how neatly ironed it is. I added my gum stay on just the lining. So if you want to add stay, you should use maybe a peplum stay or a very strong stay, so if you want it to stand very well. So this is a gum stay and it's very soft, so it's not really advisable. I'm just using it for the purpose of the tutorial. So now to place it, I'm going to lay my bodies on the floor like this, and then this is how it's going to be, okay. So now for it to be neatly finished, you're going to turn. Remember, this side is already turned, so you need to turn this part also. You can turn it with your bias or you just edge it so that it can be neatly finished. So now remember, we started our measurement from the 6 inches. You can see the mark. So now this straight part of the flange, remember we cut the peplum into 2. So now this straight flange that we covered is going to be the one to occupy the first 6 inches. That was why I did not include it in my radius. You can see that it's not part of my radius, it's just this straight part we have after cutting it off. So that's what's going to occupy my first 6 inches. So now for it to be neatly finished, I'm just going to flip it over so that we're going to sew it right side facing right side, and by the time I sew it and flip it, it's going to be neat. So now after sewing the first 6 inches, now I'm going to start to sew the radius to the rest. So you just turn it neatly like this, and then you sew following the line that you have. So you sew it all the way to the back, and when you get to the back as well, where you stopped it, that 6 inches, you are going to stop this curve, and then you sew the other one straight like this. I hope you understand that. So I'll go ahead now and sew this on my machine. So I'm sewing the straight part now, so you can see I started sewing it. So once you get to the 6 inches mark, I'm going to raise my needle, and then I'll start sewing on the flounce now, okay. So you make sure that when you are doing this, nothing is packing underneath. It's as straight as possible. You can notch it a bit on that point to make it easier for you. So now after sewing it, I'll continue sewing following the line that I created, and now I'm sewing on the radius. So this is how you are going to sew it all the way to the back. You're going to sew it through the shoulder and then to the back. And like I said, my flounce is just, my interfacing is just a basic gum stay. So you should use maybe a collar stay or something really strong, so that by the time you're done, your flounce can stand well. So now I'll sew it. You can see I'm already on the shoulder. Now I'm going to the back, and when I get to the back as well, once I get to the 6 inches mark, I'm going to continue with this straight part. So now I've gotten to that end for the back as well. So now I'm just going to raise my machine again and then continue sewing on the straight part. So it is that simple. So I have sewn it now, and this is what it looks like. So you can see, so you just finish off your armhole because you don't need a sleeve for this, and the flounce can be as long as you want. So now you can either decorate it with a streaming or whatever it is that you want, and then what we have done on this side, you're going to repeat on the other side. So I'll just take this to the mannequin so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, so I have placed my trimming on it now, and this is what it looks like. So you just need to replicate the same thing we did on this side to the other side to have a complete outfit. So this is what it looks like, and you can see how beautiful this is looking. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.